Hello, I'm Martin Dowden, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, all the news, views and analysis you need on Wednesday, the 19th of November. It wasn't a dream. Scotland have delivered the World Cup Holy Grail.
Glorious! Glorious! Kenny McLean with the halfway line! Scotland 4, Denmark 2! We are returning to the World Cup! What a night!
Perhaps the craziest game of football we've ever seen, but some sensational goals see Scotland through. Denmark did make it tough, but Scotland found the quality to claim top spot in the group en route to North America.
Kieran Tierney! Goal! Goal! Kieran Tierney has taken Scotland to the verge of World Cup return!
Steve Clarke becomes the first Scotland manager to take the country to 3 tournaments, and for him, it's an overwhelming sense of relief.
Feels good. I said at the start of the campaign, I felt the pressure of the nation to try to get to the World Cup. So immediately that falls off your shoulders and you feel a little bit better.
It's time to look out your passports.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Quick hellos to the former Scotland international, Robbie Neilson, who joins us from Belgium, and Stephen McGowan, the Herald football writer at large. Wow, guys, it really did happen. Glorious achievement rather than glorious failure. Robbie, I'll start with you. Have you ever seen the likes of that before as a player, as a manager, as a fan?
Yeah, I think it was just absolutely phenomenal the way it kind of panned out from the second minute of the game when McTominay scored that goal. It was just like, wow. And then, for me, I just thought it was an amazing night. I wasn't at the game, I'm over in Belgium, but watching it over here on the TV, the atmosphere just seemed amazing. So what a night.
Stephen, as a season hack and a fan, what was that experience at Hampden like for you last night? Unbelievable.
There is an old phrase, isn't there, about fans of typewriters, and I know that journalists are supposed to keep some kind of level of decorum in the press box, but I can assure you that was gone last night. I think people lost their shape. There was some brilliant commentary from Al Lamont on Radio Scotland where he not only lost his shape but lost his voice, and I think he spoke for the whole nation. It was an epic night, and it was really quite emotional to listen to it, because I think it just showed what it meant to people after 28 years of it going to a World Cup.
Yeah, Al Lamont was one of the first people that I messaged. His commentary's been shared everywhere across social media. It was quite something. Stephen, if I stay with you for a minute, because Robbie wasn't there. I wasn't actually at the game either. I was watching on at home. What was that like? Drill into just, how that unfolded when the goals went in, when it was sort of emerging that Scotland were actually going to do it. It must have been absolute bedlam in that stadium.
Yeah, I think the thing is, Martin, Hampden, let's be honest, Hampden has plenty of critics. I think people are pretty hard on the view, the vantage point, the atmosphere, the distance from the pitch. My God, last night it was a Christian amphitheatre. It was magnificent. I mean, you would go far and wide to find a better atmosphere, more drama than you would find. I think what really struck me was that if you look at Scotland as a nation, we're quite a divided wee nation sometimes. We're divided by politics are quite polarised, and we are, you look at religion can divide people, football can divide people, socioeconomic circumstances. But you know what? Everybody's united today. I think that was just a joyous, it's like ecstatic night for Scotland, actually, because it brought people together, and it's going to happen again because it's going to be genuine event television next summer when a whole generation of people under 35 who've never seen Scotland go to a World Cup finals are going to sample and experience that for the first time. I'm one of the lucky ones who can remember it happening many years ago. And you do remember where you are when these things happen. So for a whole new generation, it's going to be an entirely new experience, Martin.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make, Stephen, about bringing people together. I had messages from Brisbane, from Boston, from all across Scotland. I'm sure it was the same for everyone else. Obviously tapping into my brother over in Boston, who's got a nice house over there. So booking a bed just in case. But I mean, Robbie, did you get that sort of immediate sense of, the outpouring of relief, the joy? Was that coming into your phone as well?
Yeah, I think for me, I remember back in France '98 was the last one we went to, and I was on holiday at the time, and I was going to go along. But at that point, we just expected to go along to these tournaments, and I thought, I'll go to the next one. And it just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. So, it's been 27 years in the making, and I think it was just a relief. You see it all over social media, people texting me, everything, looking for tickets already if I can get them. So it's phenomenal. And, we've got a run in now. We don't have a playoff. We can just look to the draw. So it's going to be a great period coming up.
It's such a weird feeling, isn't it, Stephen? When Robbie's saying that we don't have to think about the playoffs. I mean, this isn't Scotland, is it?
There was a great clip on the Scotland national team. It was the X Twitter feed, whatever you want to call it these days, and there was a kind of compilation of Scotland's greatest hits, if you like, goals going back 25 years. It was like goals from Faddy, obviously, in Paris, from Kenny Miller, from Darren Fletcher in 2003, up to Sean Maloney in 2014, Lee Griffiths free kicks in 2017. And what really struck me about that was that none of those goals actually mattered, because we didn't qualify for any of those tournaments. And you look at last night, you look at 3 goals of the absolute highest quality. I think you would argue certainly McTominay's might be a rival to Archie Gemmill, actually. That's how good it was in 78. And those goals really mattered. They are straight in there in the top 10, because not only were they magnificent, but they got Scotland to the absolute biggest major tournament of them all after such a long wait. It was just as you say, it was so un-Scottish, wasn't it?
Robbie, I mean, let's quickly drill into what Stephen's touching on there. The quality of the goals. McTominay's opener, I think I jumped out my seat in a way I've never done before. I think my wife did the same quite spectacularly as well. What did you make of that? It was incredible.
I'll be honest, Martin, I was just shocked at it. It was like an AI thing. You see it nowadays when you see a lot of things on the TV, social media, like you think it's made up.
It was like a computer game, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was, but the height he got up, his foot was probably above the bar when he made connection with it. It was phenomenal. As the ball came in, it was in that kind of position where you're like, I didn't think anybody was going to even attempt to overhead kick it, because the athleticism it needed to get there. And it was just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And as Stephen said, it was on the biggest of stages, which makes it even bigger and more important to us.
I'm still struggling to believe he even attempted that so early in the game. It's such a shock. But when you break it down, you look at McTominay's contribution over such a long time as well. For him to get a moment like that, I mean, it was almost fate in a way, Stephen, I guess.
Yeah, I think what's become apparent is that for Scotland to really succeed in the big games, we need Scott McTominay to be on top of his game, and you need John McGinn to be right there as well. They are pretty much the main men. And that really just sent out a message. Listen, it was a difficult watch after that, let's be honest, because Denmark, they're technically better players. There are more of them. They passed the ball around Scotland. Even when they went down to 10 men, it was difficult to be sure who had the 10 men, who had 11 men, because they were terrific. And I have to say, when it went to 2-1, I didn't feel any great comfort about it, because I just felt they would get back into it. Patrick Dorgu, you see why Man United paid all those tens of millions of pounds. He's just a physical unit. Brilliant finish, like a striker for 2-2, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again. It felt a bit like Poland, the Poland World Cup qualifier for World Cup 2018 when we drew 2-2. But my goodness, that hit from Kieran Tierney. I mean, I don't think anyone knew where that came from, because he's had the tough times since he came back up here. He just hit it first time. It was curled outside the post and curled back inside, and giving his Celtic teammate Kasper Schmeichel absolutely no chance. And then it gets to 7.5 minutes into 6 minutes of added time, and people are screaming for the final whistle. And Kenny McLean goes and does that. It's just like a golfer pitching a wedge into the top corner, and it really was just, I think everybody knew then this was really happening. It was really happening.
Honestly, I'm still thinking of your AI comment, and I had to actually check my phone, Robbie, just to make sure that was real. But yeah, it is. I mean, Stephen just went through all of that there. Go through it from your own point of view, Robbie. When Tierney scores that goal, you get to Kenny McLean. Just what was it like for you?
I think it was actually the commentary I was listening to as well. They were talking about taking it to the corner, and because on the TV, when you're watching the TV, you couldn't see where Schmeichel was, and then all of a sudden Kenny looks up and hits a shot, and it takes that slow motion to get there, and then the crowd goes crazy. So it was a phenomenal moment. It was because you had that tension of just blow the whistle, please, just blow the whistle, and don't have another a Harry Kane moment from years ago at Hampden where he gets that goal in the last seconds, and it's like redemption for everyone. That's us, we're there.
We've paid tribute to Al Lamont a wee bit, Martin, but actually Stephen Thompson deserves a bit as well, because I think the TV highlights, just before McLean hits it, Tomo shout, shoot, and if you think, don't be ridiculous, don't be preposterous, and he does it. He just does it, and it's the shot of his life.
I'm not sure if either of you saw, just before Kenny McLean did that, there was a cutaway to Steve Clarke on the touchline, and you see him just pointing at the corner, just standing. And then, of course, seconds later, he's going ballistic in the most un-Steve Clarke manner that I think I've ever seen. I mean, Stephen, for Steve Clarke, what a moment, what an achievement. And I've never seen him smile so much after the game. It's real testament to what he's delivered for Scotland to have got a moment like that for himself.
He's now the greatest Scotland manager we've seen. I mean, that's a big statement when you look at some of the names who've been there. But, the late, great Jock Stein did not get to 3 from major finals. Andy Wilkesborough didn't do it. Craig Brown didn't do it. None of the Scotland managers have got to 3 finals. Now, like Steve Clarke's had his critics. I mean, I was one of them after that game in Hungary at the end of the Euros, when I think people felt that Scotland didn't leave everything out on the pitch. There was concern about the tactics, about the approach, the attitude. And I think then you thought he'd be lucky to actually limp on a great deal longer, but he said a reasonably pretty good Nations League. In this campaign, okay, look, there has been good fortune, there has been luck along the way. I think most of the games you've ended up thinking, how on earth did Scotland come through and win that? But equally, his record is now 4 qualifying campaigns. He's reached 3 of the tournaments. Another one, he missed out in a playoff semi-final against Ukraine. So I don't think you can argue with that record. And I suspect that America, Canada, Mexico will be his final swan song before he tries to go back to club football. And my God, he's earned it. I just hope this time it can be less of an anticlimax. We can go out in a bit of a high, but it's given the nation something to really look forward to in the coming months.
We'll come to the actual reality of what happens when we get there. Robbie, in terms of Steve Clarke's achievement as a manager and coach yourself, how would you assess that?
I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. I think what he's done, he touched on it a wee bit last night, was getting that experience within the group. I remember a number of years ago, when I was doing the pro licence, they spoke about the German national team and the comparisons between the Scottish national team. And at that point, Germany, I think 2014, had just won the World Cup. And on average, they had 50 caps per player in the team that won it. And at that point, I can't remember who the manager was, but there was a game we played, I think it was against Greece, and the Greek manager actually had more caps than our team put together. And last night, when you look at the team, we had 600 caps on the pitch. And that experience that it brings, look at the red card McGinn, that experience that he's got, guys on the booking, takes a bit of contact, goes down, probably wins us the game. And then on the other side of it, we brought on, I put it down here, 172 caps came on as subs. That is massive, massive experience. And that's what you need to go over the line in these games. And it's what Steve's done when he came in, was get players, continue to play them, build them and build them and build them. And you look at the guys like Dykes, almost 50 caps now for Scotland. It's massive, massive experience. And I think it really bodes well for going into a big tournament now, because if you want to progress, you have to have that experience. So I think that's for all the things that Steve's done, I think that's probably the biggest and best decision he made, was get a group of players, stick with them, and get them caps under their belt to get that experience.
It's funny, Bob, because he's taking a bit of criticism about that. Sorry, Martin, to butt in, but yeah, I mean, he's taking criticism for standing by the same players, standing by Grant Hanley and guys like that, and just almost being doggedly committed to them. But Robbie's just exemplified why that policy has worked, and why for all of these players, it's quite an ageing team now. As a consequence of what we're seeing, a lot of them are in their 30s. Craig Gordon's nearly 43. And it might be the end of the road in America next year, but what a way for him to go out. And you saw it in the emotion of Andy Robertson in the post-match interview last night, didn't you?
Yeah,
I think it's for all of them, it's almost that last opportunity, and it's taken him that long to get there. But Steve's given him that chance, and he's stuck by him. He's taking criticism for it, but to play in these big games, you need experience, and that for me has been the key last night. When I watched the game, I'm thinking, you look at Robertson, 90 caps, I think. You've got Craig Gordon, 80-odd caps. Even Hanley, nearly 50 caps. You would never actually think that when you look at it, but that experience really, really sets you in good stead for these games.
How big a part, Stephen, do you think the idea that many of the players probably realised this was their last shot at it? Maybe how much do you think that maybe drove them to get over the line there?
I think it was huge. I mean, I just referring that to the Andy Robertson interview where he spoke about he was in the hotel room in the day of the game and he was thinking about his late great friend Diogo Jota. And they used to talk about going to the World Cup. They used to talk about, they missed out in 2018, 2022. They wanted to go there this time. They wanted to experience that. And he said he was in bits in the day of the game. As I say, I mean, Hanley is 33. I think Robertson's 31. I think Christie and McGinn are in their 30s as well. I think there's a number of players who are 29. For some of these guys, this is going to be the last chance. I mean, I think the team is coming to the end of a natural cycle. I'm just delighted that they're going to get, and they're going to be a bit older in America as well, but I'm delighted they're going to get that chance to absolutely experience and go out in a massive high, if that is the way it's going to be, if it's going to end for them. And in fact, for the manager, who I think, as I said, does want to go back to club football, my God, he's earned it.
Robbie, Stephen, but we'll turn to the reality of things for a second. Stephen used the term anticlimax, hoping that we don't have another anticlimax once we get there. How can we improve on what happened at the Euros and make sure this party is a real party that Scotland can celebrate?
I think, again, going back to the experience will be massive for us. We've had a couple of campaigns now. This is obviously the biggest, stage of them all. But I think there'll be a more of a calmness about the team, I think. And I think also, who we get drawn against, but also where we get drawn will be a big factor in how we do. If we get drawn in Mexico City in the summer, it's going to be extremely hard. If we get drawn in Canada, it's a different story because climate-wise, there's a huge difference. So I think that will dictate a lot of how we do. And then secondly, the experience that we've got already and Steve's experience now.
What do you think are some of the issues, Stephen, that maybe need to be tinkered with or addressed before we get there?
I think that the kind of last frontier for Steve Clarke, as much as I say he's probably the best Scotland manager now officially, is that there's this perception that he's great at getting the team to major finals, but not so good once they get there. So I think that's something that you really want to see addressed. Because let's be honest, it's kind of joy and it's relief and it's kind of national unity this morning. But if we go there and have another poor tournament, people won't be slow in criticising them because that is the nature of the beast. I think it's a great point Robbie makes about, you look at Mexico, you think back to with the altitude and you have to go and you have to do your preparation, don't you? If you're going to go there, if you're going to play there, it could be the luck of the draw. It's going to be the biggest, literally, the biggest size of a World Cup ever. So there are going to be really unique demands, and there's going to be unique demands in the Tartan Army as well, because they're going to be getting all their tweets down, deleting all the unflattering ones about Donald Trump so they can get a visa. And that's going to be the next thing. Is it's not just how the team prepare, but how many fans are going to get there, because it's going to be the biggest clearance since the Highland clearance, I think, trying to get over to America to see these games.
Something I'd just like to go back to quickly, Stephen, when you were talking about Andy Robertson and the interview he did post-match, which was really emotional. Robbie, that sort of thing, I think often we make the assumption that players are a little bit detached and they don't care as much as we would want them to, but things like that show you just how much it means to that group in particular.
Yeah, it's like sometimes in football, players and managers have to put a front on a little bit, just to detach themselves and concentrate in the game. But deep down, we're all football fans. It's the reason why we started the game playing in the first place. And these relationships you build, and from the outside looking in, the Scottish camp looks as if it has a phenomenal relationship between the players and the staff. There's a real togetherness. It looks as if they've come through a long period, difficult periods together with some success and some difficulty, and they've really grown, and you can see them coming together. And, when you grow up as a kid, the first thing you want to do is play for Scotland. The next thing you want to do is play for Scotland in a World Cup. And there's been generations of players that haven't managed to do that, and this group now have. So it's a phenomenal achievement. And now the key is getting everyone fit and getting Craig Gordon game time, because I thought he was phenomenal last night. So it's like, do these guys need to go on loan to get game time? Because it'll have an effect on Scottish football as well. This, I think, because there'll be so many players now looking, seeing, I might have an opportunity here of going. So the next coming months until the squad is announced will be interesting as well.
I think that's interesting as well, though, Robbie, because, our club teams have not been great in Europe this season. It's not been good. The coefficient's really taken a battering. A bit of woe is us about the performances, Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen in the Europa League, Europa Conference League. And what a shot in the arm this is. It's just like an adrenaline boost all the way through the game. But I think the thing is missed sometimes with the Euros, and you'll probably know more about this than anybody will be, is that I think the players look knackered at the end of that campaign, going into that tournament. And that's going to be a challenge as well, isn't it? How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep them in a position where they can go and go through the wall once more? Because, as I say, they're going to be a wee bit older by then at the end of a long, hard season. Real challenges for Steve Clarke.
Yeah, that is a difficulty as well, especially when we've got guys that are playing at the elite level in European football. They're going to the latter stages of European competitions. So it's really difficult, to get to the Euros and then the World Cup, and is that freshness going to be there? So, it'll be interesting. Did the SFA do something with the homegrown guys and, maybe reschedule a few things towards the end of the season to give us a chance? Because I know a lot of other countries have done that previously, to try and give their national team the best opportunity.
Just finally, to both of you, is there a team, a country that you want Scotland to be up against when we finally get there in the summer? Robbie, we'll start with you.
I'll go like Haiti, Peru, New Zealand.
Don't say Peru. No. Don't say Peru. Whatever you do, don't say Peru.
That brought back bad memories, Robbie.
Some teams that we can beat and get through and get the next stage for the first time. Something like that. But I think it's a difficult one because you want to progress, but then you want to see these big games, don't you? So I think from a purely football perspective, you want to see us playing against a Brazil or something like that, on the world stage. But probably in the third or fourth game of the group, but it doesn't matter. We've already qualified.
Yeah, Stephen, for me, it would be 3 games that we're absolutely not expected to win. What about you?
Well, listen, we're going to be a pot 3 team, I think. So that guarantees you're going to have a couple of big guns in there. You are going to have a France or a Germany or an England or an Argentina or Brazil as your pot 1 team. You are going to have a really sizable pot 2 team. Certainly of the calibre of the standard of Denmark in there. So it's going to be hiding to nothing. And look, once the reality comes and you get a slightly older team, I think we have to prepare ourselves. In fact, it might be quite a sobering experience, but this isn't the time to worry about that. Now we've just got to enjoy this unique feeling and enjoy the fact that actually, for the first time in God knows how long, Scotland are going to a World Cup.
And what a perfect place to end. That's all we've got time for. Many thanks to Robbie and Stephen, and thank you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. And for the rest of the day, enjoy the celebrating.
It's petty, it's ill-informed.
Are President Trump's cuts having an adverse effect on research?
It's pandemonium.
What number's that in the periodic table?
PD, number 47. I don't know.
I've done the shooting clays before. The longer you do it, the sorer obviously it gets.
When Craig said there he'd been shooting the clays, I imagined him out the back line. Somebody's washing,
William Shatner, his secretary, contacted me to say, when Bill has a question now and again, can he contact you? And then one time he called me up and he wanted to know, David, what is a photon? I'm thinking, this is incredible. Captain Kirk wants to know what a photon is,
I once met a guy who referred to a globe as a ball map. A ball map.
Look at the ball map.
What we normally do is spin the ball map and we see where we go on holiday.
The Off the Ball podcast, available every Monday on BBC Sounds.